New Year came and went here, but that doesn't mean you can't keep the party going in the morning with the SportsGrid Network, Sirius XM Channel 159. Joe Ranieri, Donnie right side here. The early line setting up the week for you here, which will be an impactful one coming up with NFL action and certainly the College Football Championship next Monday night. But we had some great television, Joe, to watch this past weekend, and our SportsGrid TV poll. What was your favorite game from this weekend? And if to see if we're fading the public or not, overwhelmingly, it was Michigan and Alabama now coming in close to 48%. Washington, Texas, 26.4%. The Cowboys and the Lions at 20% and other at 5.7%. Joe, I voted for the Cowboys and the Lions. Why? Because I watched that game as number one, a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, rooting for the Dallas Cowboys. But the reason why I loved it so much was Dan Campbell, at the end of that football game, bad call or not, refs not paying attention or not, they announced one guy was covered when it was supposed to be the other guy that was supposed to be covered. Turns out it was a great play call by the Detroit Lions. They scored the 2-point conversion. They had the lead until it wasn't. They got moved back to the 7-yard line, Joe, and said, you know what? We're still going for this anyway. I don't care. We're going to win this football game. That's why I got the vote, because it was supposed to give the Philadelphia Eagles the number 2 overall seed. So I voted for that one. I'll take the 20%. So technically, I am fading the public here because I voted Cowboys-Lions. And again, Joe, your vote went where? Did it go Cowboys-Lions because of how angry I am?
No. I had Detroit in that game. That was a dog, but I think the Washington game, where not a lot of people gave them any credit to win anything, I think that was my favorite game of the weekend, and mostly because it's the most recent game since I feel like I just watched it 3 hours ago. So, little recency bias.
Little recency bias. I think that game just ended about 15 minutes ago. Just welcome in the radio audience. You're watching anything live to the early line right here on the SportsGrid Network, Sirius XM Channel 159. It's Joe and Donnie here having some funny talking about some of these games. By the way, if I did vote for the Cowboys-Lions, you got the Washington-Texas game. Apparently, obviously, Michigan and Alabama, one of those games where I just wanted to have a good playoff here, which meant keep Florida State out, and I think we have 2 very good games. We got that in spades. It was so much fun. The anticipation for the Michigan-Alabama game, it wasn't even that clean or great of a football game. It just had a compelling ending. If you want to say what was more compelling and fun to watch with a clean game, it was Washington, Texas. You like offense, you like quarterback play, you like wideouts, you like climactic scenarios. It had everything here. My question to you, Joe, is 5.7% of the voting public here through a couple hundred votes hit other. What was it? The outdoor hockey game? What was the other vote that was in Oregon because you won money over Liberty? What was the other game?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm trying to think, maybe there really wasn't any crazy college basketball games. Maybe the 5% are Knicks fans. Who were ecstatic watching the new look Knicks end up finally winning a game, and with their new pieces with Anunoby and everyone else. So I'm thinking they're probably NBA fans.
How about that? Maybe Raven fans out there. And also maybe it was JY and had a couple burner accounts run through there for the 5.7 to hype up those Knicks out here. By the way, when we get back bowl season, right? Because again, we're just looking at the college football playoff. It was so much fun to watch. Do you know what I also wanted to tune in just to see what was going to happen and was pleasantly not surprised? Joe, Iowa's offense. Now, hear me out on this. I'm on the fence with this because I say to myself, if Iowa tries to go another direction, they're going to wind up in Nebraska. Hey, let's enter into the new millennium in Iowa and have a wide open offense. Yeah, you'll win 5 games a year. I know this is legitimately the only way they can win. It's like the service academies, right? Navy and Army going up tempo and 5 wide. It doesn't work. You're not going to win very many football games. But what is going to change at Iowa? Will they ever just step up into an offense that actually has a quarterback, actually has wide receivers, actually has a game plan to score points here? They got shut out again, back-to-back games here, going against upper-level competition.
Well, I mean, listen, now that the nepotism is done with, and we don't have to worry about the coach's son calling plays here, somebody has got to step in. I think the next OC hire is going to be huge. And it's going to tell you everything you need to know about what's going on with Iowa. Because quite honestly, how many times a year do we have to watch a team with elite special teams and elite defensive play get embarrassed in spots against teams that understand that it's a new year, it's a new era. Especially now with the teams you got coming into the Big Ten, Iowa, you better be able to throw the ball. You are not going to be able to grind out your way to a national championship here. So it's unfortunate, but they have 2/3 of the equation down, Donnie. That's the most frustrating thing about Iowa. They have elite special teams and defense and can't figure it out on offense.
And by the way, that 5.7%, if that would actually just been Florida State going up against Georgia, I probably would have voted for that. Now, I watched that game start to finish knowing that it wasn't going to be a good football game. Now, we saw instances in this bowl, run that teams don't care generally at times, right? If you're not in the college football playoff, a lot of guys leave. We understand that. But the case in point here, you saw an Oregon team with Bo Nix go, you know what? Love the coach, love the program. I just want to go out in style here. I have one more game with the guys. They blew the doors off of Liberty here. You take a look at some other instances where guys came back. The Georgia Bulldogs, they lost to Alabama. And man, we're in the Orange Bowl going up against Florida State. This game means nothing. You know what Kirby Smart did? Rally the troops, get the #1 overall recruiting class, then go out and bust Florida State in the mouth. Now, Florida State, who was whining and crying about how unfair it was, everybody opts out. And that's not even the issue with me. Because I want to say, Joe, if you opted out, right, and say, hey, look, it just wasn't competitive. 27-7, we lost. Gave it our best shot. We just didn't have our players. Florida State absolutely rolled over and got dust busted in the second half by guys that didn't even see the field during the regular season for the Georgia Bulldogs. They didn't even show up. Is that an indictment on Mike Norvell, or is it just hey, the telecast well, what did you want him to do? I don't know. Be competitive?
It's not a good look for college football. And college football, they're flying by the seat of their pants, Donnie, this year. The NIL is all new. The transfer portal is all new. For the very first time in bowl era, we had a team that wanted to, went undefeated in a Power 5 conference and didn't land in the top 4. There was a lot of drama going on with this team, right? And I get it, but you got to figure this out, college football, because you can't have a team going in and absolutely rolling over in one of the most prestigious bowl games in the history here at the Orange Bowl and have a 60-point win by a team. It's a terrible, terrible look. And you also put a mark on Florida State because you think Kirby Smart wanted Georgia to be a side note, look, Florida State beat us with their backups. What did you think was going to happen here?
Yeah, I would have took that. By the way, Jesse Palmer was the color guy on that telecast. I would have ripped Florida State the entire game instead of saying, what did you want him to do? Come on, baseball's up.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
States to legalize sports betting and finally, quietly, legalizing the online portion. And that, of course, is Delaware.
Delaware offered parlay cards through their lottery for years. Right. And the local retailers didn't want to lose that money. They didn't want to lose the guys that were coming in to fill out those parlay cards. And, they're buying some beef jerky and chips on the way out of the store as well.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I'm laying the 14.5.
And against the number as an underdog this year, meaning when they cover, they went out by. There's a very real chance that this Michigan season is the best chance they will have.
Oh, Rocky Top, Tennessee.
Am I just a side better now? I'm right here on Saturday on College Football Today. It's bowl season, baby.
College Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This one was all Colts, 30-13. They win. They cover the one as the favorite. 41.5 just gets up and over.
And when Gardner Minshew plays okay, doesn't hurt his team, the Colts are in a lot of games. There are some games though he stinks it up and looks really bad. And, I don't know. They're just a tough team for me to figure out. I think I bet 5 Colts games this year and got all 5 of them wrong.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Hour number 3. Yes. Boy, we had some hot topics here already this morning. But you know what's hot? The hot stove in Major League Baseball. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Joe Ranieri. And joining us, our Major League Baseball insider right here on the SportsGrid Network, it's Craig Mish. Craig, how was your New Year?
I worked with Joe on Christmas Day. That was a lot of fun. We actually had a really fun game on Christmas Day to do. And naturally, like a lot of other people yesterday, I was watching those epic finishes between Alabama and Michigan and Washington and Texas, and naturally thinking, my gosh, like this was awesome. This is what I remember what bowl season used to be. But unfortunately, the rest of the games, guys, really were somewhat of a dud. So I'm hoping you mentioned hot stove, Donnie. I'm still waiting for the hot stove here. I mean, it's January the 2nd here. I'm waiting for some signings, but it's like a trickle of a stove. And when you turn it on and it just, it's not hot enough, not hot enough, not hot enough.
Yep, the pilot's still trying to light that hot stove. We were led to, by the way, Joe, we were led to believe that the hot stove was going to start to get cranking once Ohtani got in, Joe. Come on now.
Exactly.
I never said that.
Weren't the dominoes supposed to fall?
I never said that. I never said that.
Craig said it.
I never said that. See, the thing is that
I'm with you.
For me, the great thing about being here on SportsGrid is that the primary gig is for me to host shows on Newswire and then do fantasy sports today. And then, this baseball reporting, it's fun for SportsGrid, and I do some other work, but I really call it how it is. And I said from the very beginning when Ohtani signed it, this is all a bunch of BS. And I said it when Yamamoto signed it, this is all a bunch of BS. This is what happens in free agency. It's the new norm. Not every year is going to be the same. Last year, it was a crazy hot stove. We had all these signings during the winter meetings. But if you want to just make stuff up and guess and say, oh, I think it's going to happen by Christmas, by New Year's, by the time this guy signs or that guy signs. I mean, you tell me, in what league in sports would a player like Cody Bellinger or the Cy Young Award winner and Blake Snell go into almost 3 months of offseason without getting signed? Would it happen in the NBA or the NFL or the NHL? No way. This is just how baseball works. So hopefully in the future they realize this, have some sort of end game to where all the free agents have to be signed by New Year's Day, and maybe things would speed up. But until then, here we go. Spring training's next month, and we still have major players that are unsigned.
Kind of crazy, though, Craig. I know I'm just going to say, we were on air when the Chris Sale news broke this weekend, and Pharrell and I looked at each other and went, okay. I don't know. Does that help the Braves? Does it not? I mean, what exactly are we to make of the big announcement here with Chris Sale? Is there anything left in the tank?
Yeah, I mean, Joe, I think probably the Braves, the way that they look at it is naturally there's a lot of upside there. They probably realized, hey, look, we're not going to spend the money on Snell to get him. Look, based on what Giolito got and Frankie Montas. I mean, Blake Snell's getting $200 million, right? Like there's no question. So the Braves clearly at this point decided, all right, we're happy with what we have. Let's go ahead and we'll make a trade. So they acquire Sale. Now, Joe, I guess the thing is he's had a lot of injury issues over the past. He did waive his no trade clause to go to Atlanta, so maybe this is a new lease on life for him. I don't think that you could count on 150 or 200 innings, but based on the way that the Braves have been able to deploy the bullpen, if he was somewhere around the 125 to 150 mark, given what Sale was kind of or used to be, I think they would be happy with that. Honestly, Vaughn Grissom, really nice player. I think he'll fit in very well with Boston, but with all of those players signed by the Braves for the rest of their lives, like where's this guy going to play? He really didn't have a position to play, and they got Jared Kelenic to play the outfield, so they obviously want to see him. So Braves are always winning, they're generally making good trades and doing the right thing. My guess is this will end up well for them.
Hey, take a look here at that starting lineup, or at least the starting pitching lineup anticipated. Strider, Fried, Morton, Sale, and Elder. And as you saw late in that season, get a little bit topsy-turvy because you're worried about guys coming back from injury, younger pitchers having to perform in the playoffs. Now you get that guy that's been there, done that before. It can't hurt that move, and that's what the Braves are always, making shrewd moves. In 2024, we take a look at their odds here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. The NL East, a minus 230 price, prohibitive favorite there to win the NL, plus 390, and also the World Series place, sitting at a plus 650. Let me ask you a question on this, Craig, because number one, we don't ever know if the Dodgers are done here, but they are loading up their roster. But I seem to just get back to, I know how that works out. Superstars, you can't always buy yourself a championship in Major League Baseball. The foundation for the Braves is there. Heading into the season, if you are looking to back the Braves, they have a legitimate chance to take down the Dodgers, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that they should be one of the favorites to do it, and I'll probably end up picking them to win the National League this year when it's all said and done, depending on what Philadelphia does. I mean, Philadelphia's really, taken them down the last couple of years, so you can't rule them out either. But I think, Donnie, the thing to look at, and again, we are so far away from this in July and August, but I think what the Braves probably realized the last couple of years is no matter how good you think you have it, you may not have it that good in the postseason. And they've been bounced the last couple of years. I'm going to guess that even though the Braves may be relatively quiet the rest of the way as far as the offseason is concerned, I think what they're going to do is at the trade deadline, they're going to try and push a little bit harder than they've pushed in the past, sort of realizing maybe we do need a little bit more. Whatever this player would be over the top. Because I don't think that they can approach the trade deadline and the end of the season the way that they have done it the last couple of years, because it hasn't worked. And their general manager, Alex Anthopoulos, is, he's won all the awards. He's, arguably the best, or if not one of the best in the game. He'll adjust things this year. There's no way that they go back into this thing and just get to the deadline and go, okay, all right, we're good. We're going to win the division. They're going to have to adjust, and I think they will.
American League East on the flip side there. Some teams wait a little bit too long to hit the reset button. You can't be a Red Sox organization and be middle of the road, Craig, and that's what they are. They're a mediocre franchise, and that doesn't work well here. So what is the plan, do you think, with the Red Sox moving forward?
I don't know, Joe. Not sure. This is one of those weird ones. Good question. Don't really have the answer. Yeah, I mean, Chaim Bloom, who was the general manager there, I mean, he didn't win as much as they wanted to, but, when you hire a guy that comes from Tampa Bay, then you got to understand that he's going to operate differently with that team than he would normally. So, that's not, in his wheelhouse. So I don't really, blame Bloom necessarily. Their farm system's great. They can make some trades now if they want. But, I mean, Joe, they signed Lucas Giolito to 2 years and almost $40 million. Maybe that'll work out. I'm not really sure that it will. They didn't get any of the big names that are out there. So to me, they're somewhere in the middle, I guess. I'm not feeling bad, but I'm not feeling great about them. There's still some offseason to go. I guess that would be what I would tell Red Sox fans, just hang in there and wait. But it's not like I look at their team right now and think that they're better than the Orioles or better than the Rays. Maybe they're where the Yankees are at. That could be fair. But I certainly need to have this play out a little bit more to see what their plan is. And Craig Breslow, I think, is going to do a great job running the organization there. But what is that plan? What has ownership told him? What are you guys spending now? Or are you not spending now? I'm just not even sure.
It's very interesting that you bring that up, too, because this is one of the teams in the 2000s. The Boston Red Sox have been one of the best franchises in baseball, but you see 3 of the past 4 years finishing dead last in the division.
Oof.
And also, from a market standpoint, it's not like you can't compete with Toronto or New York payrolls here. They have a wide margin and a coffer of money that you just haven't been spending. I just get back to when saying, you know what, we're not going to re-sign guys like Mookie Betts and Xander Bogaerts. Those are guys that you're supposed to keep around here as the pillars to your team. And once those were stripped away, now who are those superstars? Like Rafael Devers, you try to lean on, hasn't worked out. But I always go back to that Betts move. It's like, this doesn't make sense to me, Craig. This is a team with a lot of money that says, yeah, you know, we'll take Verdugo back and see how that works out. When if you just kept Betts, he's probably an AL MVP and you're in the playoffs.
Yeah, so they hired Chaim Bloom away from Tampa Bay to rebuild their farm system. Right. They have 3 or 4 guys that are elite prospects that could be traded for major league talent. And Donnie, my guess, that's the way that they're going to go. It's almost like they're going to do exactly the opposite of what they've done the last few years. They'll probably end up making a big trade at some point.
Hot stove heating up. Craig Mish, our resident MLB expert. Catch him next, right here on the SportsGrid Network on Newswire. Thanks, Craig.
States to legalize sports betting and finally, quietly, legalizing the online portion. And that, of course, is Delaware.
Delaware offered parlay cards through their lottery for years. Right. And the local retailers didn't want to lose that money. They didn't want to lose the guys that were coming in to fill out those parlay cards. And, you know, they're buying some beef jerky and chips on the way out of the store as well.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I'm right in the 14.5. And against the number as an underdog this year, meaning when they cover, they went out by. There's a very real chance that this Michigan season is the best chance they will have.
Oh, Rocky Top, Tennessee.
So, am I just a side better now? I'm right here on Saturday on College Football Today. It's bowl season, baby.
College Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This one was all Colts, 30-13. They win. They cover the one as the favorite. 41.5 just gets up and over.
And when Gardner Minshew plays okay, doesn't hurt his team, the Colts are in a lot of games. Some games though he stinks it up and looks really bad. And, you know, I don't know. They're just a tough team for me to figure out. I think I've had 5 Colts games this year and got all 5 of them wrong.
Football Full Circle. Only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations. But the game was over at that point. So another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, from little hot stove action, get over to the heated up action on the NFL gridiron, which means we are winding down the season. Week 18 is on the horizon, and maybe we've already put most of our MVP votes up to bed, and the award winner should be, maybe it's Lamar Jackson. Let's take a look at this, Joe Ranieri. Let's set the table, right? Entering into Week 17, we had a lot of possibilities. And quite frankly, you can even go back to a week before that where Lamar Jackson was 5-1 to win the MVP because Brock Purdy had it sold up. Now, you take a look at that football game. The Ravens go in and blast the San Francisco 49ers, which put Lamar Jackson as the favorite to win the award. You take a look at him entering in the Week 17, minus 175 price. Christian McCaffrey, 4-1, approximately Tua Tagovailoa, plus 850. Josh Allen at 12-1, and then Brock Purdy also at 12-1. We knew we had a massive game coming up this past weekend between the Baltimore Ravens and the Miami Dolphins. It was sensational for the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. So you had another one of those elimination type games like, could Tyreek Hill win it? Could maybe Tua Tagovailoa win it if they go up to Baltimore, win that game? That didn't happen. Lamar Jackson put his best foot forward in his best performance of the season in the biggest game and came away with a victory and the number 1 overall seed. Fast forward to this week at the FanDuel Sportsbook, Lamar Jackson minus 20,000 to win the MVP. Let's start there. Did Lamar Jackson already wrap up the award in your mind here, Joe?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, is he worthy of it? Yes. But, I would caution people to remember, for many instances, Bob, Donnie, this is a popularity contest. Does the media love him? Does the media not love him? East Coast, West Coast bias, right? Because the guy run underneath him, Christian McCaffrey, to me, might be more valuable if we're talking about, value to a team. And fortunately enough, for both of these teams, they haven't had to deal with a lot of injuries where we had to figure out just how much they mean to the team here. Because I do think you can flip a coin between Christian McCaffrey and Lamar Jackson. I don't think if you told me one over the other, there's not a big argument to be had. I think they're both right where they should be, number 1 and number 2. But there is no denying recency bias, and what we just saw from Lamar Jackson in a big game, and then what we saw Lamar do against Christian McCaffrey's team and that defense. Yes, I get the minus 20,000, but to me, it's a 2-horse race, and Christian McCaffrey is right there with him.
Now, how about this? If we take a look here, and the way it's setting up at the FanDuel Sportsbook, Lamar Jackson looks like he's won the award. But let's have some fun and go for who actually is going to be second in line with votes here. Dak Prescott at 16-1 price here, coming in second here to win that award, followed by Brock Purdy at 25-1 and Josh Allen at 30-1. Obviously, McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill behind him. Now, we still have some football to play this weekend, which includes a massive game on Sunday Night Flex now with the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. In that game, you're going to see Josh Allen. You're going to see Tyreek Hill. You're probably going to see Tua Tagovailoa. Is there a chance that Dak Prescott sits at 16-1? Looks like the Cowboys should have an easy time with Washington. Is it sewn up that when we see the votes at the end, Lamar Jackson wins it, Dak Prescott is number 2, or could we say Josh Allen beat the Miami Dolphins and claim that number 2 spot?
Well, let me ask you this, Donnie. Is it a quarterback award? Is it?
Yes.
Can we stop pretending it's anything other than just a quarterback award? Because if we're right, I mean, Christian McCaffrey, great job. Tyreek Hill, amazing individual effort here.
Yep.
But when we're doing this year after year, it seems like the only thing we're ever considering are quarterback. Is it Mahomes? Is it Lamar? Is it Josh Allen? So it's a quarterback award. Let's just stop pretending it's anything else. Although I do think Christian McCaffrey and what he brings to the table makes him the most unique player, not Tyreek Hill, who, by the way, was on the field for that game against the Ravens, had that work out for them there. So much for Tyreek Hill being the end-all, be-all. But I don't know what else Lamar could have done to bolster his spot here. It's his award, and I don't even know if he's going to play another snap. I think it's his award, but I do think that Josh Allen has an opportunity to finish, I would think, second in voting with a big appearance and a big win over Tua, Tyreek, and the Miami, and to come back and win the AFC East after where they were over a month ago, Donnie. I think he's the one that's going to get a whole lot of late votes here, provided they handle business against the Dolphins this weekend.
By the way, how Buffalo Bills would it be for them to actually miss out on the playoffs if they lose on Sunday Night Football? I mean, you want to talk, it'd be nice if they came in and the Ravens still needed to win that game. Like, okay, good.
Yes.
The Ravens will handle the Steelers. No matter what happens, we'll get in. But boy, we would like to be the 2 seed. The fact that, you're excited, and I am too, to see what the Buffalo Bills can do in the playoffs, only to find out at about midnight on Sunday, like, oh, by the way, Bills aren't even going to the playoffs at this point. That should be wild to watch out. But if we continue here, Joe, with the market at the FanDuel Sportsbook, NFL Offensive Player of the Year, Christian McCaffrey, a big-time favorite at minus 360 or over Tyreek Hill, and then CeeDee Lamb coming in at 22-1. Christian McCaffrey, for me, is the most important player on the San Francisco 49ers. Why? Because he's the engine here. But you're right. It's a quarterback award. The most important position in sports is the quarterback. It's way differently here. Do you agree that Christian McCaffrey is the Offensive Player of the Year for the NFL?
Yeah, well, I think that's your consolation prize, right? So congratulations. I mean, listen, Tyreek Hill was also putting up ridiculous numbers this year, but from a usage standpoint, and we were talking about this from week 3, 4, and 5 and on, we're going, can you stop giving Christian McCaffrey 40 touches in a game in games in which you're winning 20 by 20 points? Like, his usage numbers are off the charts for the 49ers here. Without him, that is a big problem, not just running the ball, but what he can do catching the ball and in pass blocking as well, which I think is underrated. I do think he is the most impressive weapon. Not saying Tyreek Hill isn't impressive, but I think from an offensive standpoint, he is an absolute machine, unlike anything else that we have ever seen in a very, very long time. And the fact that he's remained as healthy as he has, given those usage numbers, is a testament to the strength and fitness coordinators there at the 49ers. He was not this in Carolina, Donnie. He was hurt every other week in Carolina over the last couple of years. He goes to the 49ers and all of a sudden still getting used a ton, but not nearly as banged up as he has been in years past.
Gets a couple weeks of rest here on the sidelines here, and so do the 49ers. They wrapped up that number 1 seed. Let me take a quick peek here at the Defensive Player of the Year market. Looks like, Joe, it's a 3-man race right now. TJ Watt plus 450, Micah Parsons plus 350, Myles Garrett minus 250 here. I love what Myles Garrett has done this year. I think Micah Parsons is a fantastic player. The same thing with TJ Watt. But is it Myles Garrett? Because you know what? I sort of get bonus points now. 4th-string quarterback, even though Joe Flacco is playing really well, you want to lean on your defense. They got 11 wins. I have no idea how they have 11 wins. I don't have that same perspective out of Micah Parsons because he does have a capable offense, and he is a great football player, don't get me wrong. TJ Watt, sensational as well. But I just feel like Myles Garrett might get the extracurriculars, as I like to say, as that extra bump here for the defensive market. Myles Garrett minus 250. Do you agree that he's the favorite in the clubhouse entering into Week 18?
Well, this Browns team is quietly the story of the year nobody is talking about. If somebody doesn't win some Player of the Year award on that team, the Browns with no quarterback have 11 wins, people. They are already locked in. The Browns have 11. And you think they've done it because of Joe Flacco? No, they have done it. They've won 11 games because of that man right there, Myles Garrett, on the defensive side, showing up and showing out and having an MVP year here for that defense in order to keep their head above water. Total turmoil. And besides all of that, this guy still shows up and has one of the most feared defenses in the NFL. I don't see how anybody comes close than to Myles Garrett, and what this Cleveland team has done all year long has been. It's a special year that nobody's talking about right now.
When you take a look at a 4x100 race at the Olympics, right, you have the anchor man that just in case you're behind, you hand that baton over to, and he can smoke the rest of the field and win that race. The reason why I'm bringing this up is the AP Coach of the Year. We looked at DeMeco Ryans. Hey, he should probably win this. Shane Steichen, yeah, absolutely. Dan Campbell, he's a front runner. But closing down the anchor leg was Kevin Stefanski, who's a minus 950 price, and I absolutely agree with it. 4th string. He's close to it. Again, if he needed the game, they would have 12 wins this year. An unbelievable coaching job by Kevin Stefanski. My runaway victor here, which I didn't see even 3 weeks ago, to be honest, Joe.
No, listen, you got to give credit where credit is due. I mean, he's been a punchline for a long, long time here, Donnie. And what does he do with a guy that was on the couch? And he comes in, he brings him in, and all of a sudden, because he's an offensive guy, and voila. I mean, look at him. And I said it at the beginning of the year, Donnie. I said maybe one of the biggest hires of the year that also went under the radar was them bringing in a new defensive coordinator in Cleveland. And Jim Schwartz is a difference maker. And you could see most of the same talent, by the way, Donnie, that we've seen over the last couple of years with the Browns. Only it took the right defensive coordinator, put it together, and give us a possible defensive MVP. And, oh, yeah, a possible coach of the year opportunity. I think it's him. And I think McVay and the Rams, too. I don't think anybody saw that coming.
No, it's pretty good, and you're right about McVay and the Rams. There was times in the summer where we were breaking down the Rams, and I said, you know, Joe, there's probably a better chance that after Week 8 they're trading Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald, and McVay's going to move on here. But they certainly righted that ship, and they're one of those hot teams heading into the playoffs, which probably could give the Cowboys a lot of fits in round number 1. So much good stuff to take a look at Week 18. We'll keep you updated all throughout the process right here on the SportsGrid Network. But there is a thing called the National Basketball Association. Let's hit the hardwood next, right here on the early line.
One of the first states to legalize sports betting, and finally, quietly, legalizing the online portion. And that, of course, is Delaware.
Delaware offered parlay cards through their lottery for years. And the local retailers didn't want to lose that money. They didn't want to lose the guys that were coming in to fill out those parlay cards. And, they're buying some beef jerky and chips on the way out of the store as well.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I'm laying the 14.5. And against the number as an underdog this year, meaning when they cover, they went out by beat. There's a very real chance that this Michigan season is the best chance they will have.
Oh, Rocky Top, Tennessee.
So, am I just a side better now? I'm right here on Saturday on College Football Today. It's bowl season, baby.
College Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This one was all Colts, 30-13. They win. They cover the 1 as the favorite. 41.5 just gets up and over.
And when Gardner Minshew plays okay, doesn't hurt his team, the Colts are in a lot of games. Some games though he stinks it up and looks really bad. And, I don't know. They're just a tough team for me to figure out. I think I've bet 5 Colts games this year and got all 5 of them wrong.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations. But the game was over at that point. So another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, let's close this show down with an exciting segment here with the NBA. And quite frankly, maybe on the, outside looking in the NBA right now, because so much information is flowing through in the NFL and certainly college football. The playoff was fantastic so far. National championship game next Monday night. But we got some good games on the hardwood tonight, which includes Joe Ranieri, 521, 522 on the rotation, an 8 o'clock tip-off between the Boston Celtics and the Oklahoma City Thunder. This line actually opened up at the FanDuel Sportsbook, Joe, -1.5 as a favorite towards the Boston Celtics. We're now seeing 4s here at the FanDuel Sportsbook and a total of 239.5. Celtics Thunder. What are we looking at tonight from your perspective here, Joe?
So, I mean, listen, kudos to both of these teams here. It's an interesting dynamic, right? I do think both teams have the kinds of defense and players to limit the offensive side of the ball, in which we know what OKC wants to do, right? With SG, we know that with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So SGA, we know they want to get there. They want to use Chet Holmgren inside. They want to bang a little bit. They want to get some extra boards. It sounds a lot like what we get from the Celtics too, Donovan. So I think these two teams are mirror images of one another. And when you have two teams that have an answer for what they do well defensively, I don't know how we're getting to 240. I think it's the easy thing to choose and just say, wow, it's going to be points, and more points. I'm not sure about that. I think these two teams match up very well defensively. I would not be shocked me if this is a much closer and tighter game as opposed to bombs away. Let's just see who can make as many threes. I don't think we're going to get that in this one.
Taking a look at the anticipated starting lineups for tonight: Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Kristaps Porzingis. Looks like we're full go there for the Celtics. And then also for the OKC Thunder, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. Should be a good one at this point here. And it is a lot of points coming out of the break here. Should I say the New Year's Day break, if there a couple teams had a day or two off. But if we're looking honestly at this game, it's interesting that this line opened up at the 1.5 and now sits at the 4, something to play into, because the one thing that we do know, Oklahoma City Thunder, it's not the same thing. They're not the same team they were over the past couple years. We'll see. We're certainly getting a good game. That definitely the marquee tonight. Let's head up to the West Coast. An Orlando Magic team looking to fight for a playoff spot this year, taking on the Golden State Warriors. This line opened up at the FanDuel Sportsbook at a -4. Now sits at a -3. A total in this game sits at 230.5. The Magic on the road versus the Warriors. What are we thinking here, Joe?
Well, we're thinking that, once they suspended Draymond, boy, things were looking great for the Warriors, right? I think they went 5-1 right after he was suspended, but yikes, they are going the wrong way now. 3-game losing streak. Orlando, a very long, very athletic team, also very good defensively, is not exactly the kind of team that's going to allow you to get out of an offensive funk here. I mean, we're looking at nobody getting more than 25 points in a game here. Steph Curry seems to have been has regressed a little bit. Maybe the weight of having to carry this team is starting to get on him. I don't like this Steve Kerr team. I haven't liked them. I think they've been overvalued. I do like Orlando. They've had a rough little West Coast road trip here, but I think they're exactly the kind of team that are going to make life difficult for the perimeter shooters who are already having a tough time here. I don't see how Golden State shoots their way out of this game here against this Orlando team. So I like Orlando to get it done here in this spot.
All right, let's take a look at the city of brotherly love, ringing in the new year with some basketball. The Chicago Bulls take on the Philadelphia 76ers. Line sticks out to me, -10.5 for the Philadelphia 76ers and a total of 223. Should we be expecting Joel Embiid back into the lineup? That's probably the reason why that line is so high. Maybe a little bit of rust here, but from a Bulls perspective, can they hang within that 10.5 here, Joe?
Yeah, well, they certainly have been, right? I mean, they too have quietly now become a pretty good team here, especially as of late there. Once Zach LaVine went down, and all of a sudden we're starting to get some impressive numbers out of this team. A little banged up. Vucevic has not been available to them for the last 3 or 4 games. It'll be interesting to see if he too is a go. But I hope Embiid is going here tonight. Otherwise, that's a huge number for the Sixers to be laying if he is not on the court. But also see if Vucevic is going there too. They'll be a little small there on the boards here. Nobody's going to have an answer for Embiid. But the Bulls are certainly trending up. Maybe not in this game, though.
Yeah, see if that energy is going for Embiid tonight, looking for a victory against the Chicago Bulls. We'll see how that one plays out. But how about this? This is the time where I start to turn the page on my seasons here. The NFL winding down here. Fantastic playoff, Super Bowl ahead. SportsGrid, we got everything covered for you here. But even if we are having great basketball games in late November and early December, it sort of takes a back page here to the NBA, to college football, to professional football. But now we start to get into conference play, which I really enjoy. And tonight, no difference. We've got a pretty good slate on a Tuesday night. Number 1 Purdue going in to take on Maryland. Purdue comes in at 12-1, but a 1-1 record in the Big Ten. Maryland 9-4 in the season, 1-1 record here in the Big Ten. Purdue is a favorite in this game. Let me just see if we can get the updated numbers here. -5.5 in a total of 141.5. Is Purdue going to be able to cruise into Maryland and pick up an easy victory? What are we looking at this matchup here for you, Joe?
Yeah, I think they will. Listen, Maryland has been a bit disappointing to me here. I thought they would be better, but they have some problems shooting the ball, and especially from the outside and the perimeter. Now, you're not going to be able to bang around in the middle there against Purdue here and Zach Edey. But your best chance of beating Purdue is being able to shoot from the outside, which is the thing that they do the least thing well, and that being Maryland. I think Purdue, yes, on the road, never an easy situation here in open conference play, but I don't see how we can back even getting the 5.5, 6 points here. There's just not enough perimeter shooting for Maryland for me to be able to trust them to not only just win this game, but stay within a couple of buckets here. I think Purdue cruises.
It's a good point you bring up, too, because if you're not a great shooting team here, you want to get to the free throw line, which Maryland does, Joe. But you take a look at Purdue, top 10 in the country in not fouling and sending you to the free throw line. And to bring up your point once again, styles make fights here. Maryland, 337th from the three-point line. How about this Purdue? Top 25 in the country at defending from the three-point line. So if you're not stealing easy buckets from the free throw line and you can't make three-point shots, that's going to be tough sledding here for the Maryland Terrapins. We'll see how that one factors out and turns out. Let's turn it over to the Big Ten. Northwestern, the Wildcats, 10-2 on the season, 1-0 in Big Ten play. Taking on Illinois at 10-2 on the season, 1-0 also in Big Ten play. Illinois favored by -5.5 with a total of 142.5. The Illini at home. Can they handle the Wildcats?
Yeah, well, this is a game that what stuck out to me was maybe the total here being a little bit too high there at 142. Why? Because, well, Northwestern is going to be efficient, but they are going to be slow, and they play a ton of defense here, right? Chris Collins of Northwestern there, the head coach, he instills defense, and more defense. And that is why they were able to take down Purdue this year as well as last year, is they make it very difficult for teams to be able to get into rhythm. The problem is you also have a lot of extra headlines, and the All-American guard, Terrence Shannon Jr., who was their leading scorer, by the way, with about 22 points a game, he is suspended indefinitely now. This is an impossible spot for Illinois, which is why, instead of trying to figure out the winner, Illinois being in Champaign and at home, I'm looking at the under here. Do not expect this great offensive output from Illinois against Northwestern.
Yeah, it's a good point you bring up there, because they won their last game easily against FDU, but obviously that's FDU not in conference play. We'll see if that has long-term ramifications, because one of those guys you were expected to lean on once you got to conference play, probably not going to be there for the rest of the season. We'll see how that one plays out. ACC action, North Carolina, top 10 in the country right now, 9-3 on the season, 1-0 in the ACC. Pittsburgh comes in 9-4, but has dropped their first 2 ACC games. If we line up the point spread in this game, -4.5 point favorite favorite for North Carolina, up from the opening number of -2.5 in a total that now sits right now on the increase. You see the 157.5 on that graphic. It's now up to 158.5. A lot of points expected here between North Carolina and Pittsburgh, Joe.
Love this guard that Pittsburgh has, guys. Carlton Carrington, really do. He's a fun kid, a young kid, freshman. He's kind of all world for them. But the problem is that if he doesn't have the kinds of games that he needs to, Pitt recently has not been great here. But I do think that that Pitt is going to have a hard time dealing with R.J. Davis, who is coming off, I think, his first double-double of the year. I am expecting the Tar Heels here to have too much firepower, too much experience. Pitt will give them a fight early, but I think North Carolina eventually pulls away late.
Yeah, this next game we're going to talk about, I don't know how much fight there is going to be. That is DePaul entering into this contest 3-9, 0-1 in the Big East, taking on the UConn Huskies at 11-2 and 1-1 in the Big East. Now, the UConn Huskies opened up their Big East play by taking a loss, which, again, many people didn't see there, but then followed it up almost by taking another loss to St. John's. They're favored by 23.5 points tonight, total coming in around 138.5. Is this a breeze by for UConn? And it seems like everybody loves to play DePaul in the Big East.
Yeah, no, and well, they do, because DePaul is absolutely terrible. There's really no way around it. This is the kind of team where if I'm UConn, it's exactly who I want to be playing. Kind of get right, get things going here, and get it going. Now, DePaul did, congratulations. I think they beat Chicago State, but this is a different animal altogether. I think UConn gets right. I wouldn't be worried about laying the 23.5 because, nothing like a nice 35-point blowout win for UConn to feel better about themselves here in the Big East.
Yeah, tough scene here. We're talking about rebounding percentages here. Top 10 in the country is UConn with that size. How about DePaul? 302 in the country at defensive rebounding. And also a team that doesn't defend the three-point shot all that well. Talking about DePaul, 243rd in the country. Not many factors match up in the favor for DePaul. Just a matter of how the UConn Huskies will come out. Let me take a side shot here and take a look at that big picture in NCAA action, because we are in January. It's college basketball conference season just getting underway. Purdue to win a national championship, Joe, 8-1 price. Arizona 11-1, Houston 11-1, UConn 15-1. A lot of teams bunched up here. At the early quarter poll, who do you think is the best team in college basketball right now, Joe?
Well, I think it this year, and maybe it's been like this in years past, Donnie. I think there's a lot of parity here, and I don't think there's that one shoe in, because we've seen it. We just saw Arizona get smoked by Stanford over the weekend, right? So there really is no one standout, but obviously I think there's some very dangerous teams. Kentucky is one of them. UConn is another, and Arizona, I think, maybe came back down to life here in reality. I expect a bounce back from them as well.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of changes here. We go from what I call the silly season, even though you're playing some big-time opponents here. You're playing with Hawaii and Maui and the Bahamas. Now you get into conference play, road and away. It gets a lot tougher. Bye is on the way. Don't go anywhere. It's the early line right here on the SportsGrid Network.
States to legalize sports betting, and finally, quietly, legalizing the online portion. And that, of course, is Delaware.
Delaware offered parlay cards through their lottery for years. And the local retailers didn't want to lose that money. They didn't want to lose the guys that were coming in to fill out those parlay cards, and they're buying some beef jerky and chips on the way out of the store as well.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I'm laying the 14.5. And against the number as an underdog this year, meaning when they cover, they went out by beat. There's a very real chance that this Michigan season is the best chance they will have.
Oh, Rocky Top, Tennessee.
Am I just a side better now? I'm right here on Saturday on College Football Today. It's bowl season, baby.
College Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This one was all Colts, 30-13. They win. They cover the one as the favorite. 41.5 just gets up and over.
And when Gardner Minshew plays okay, doesn't hurt his team, the Colts are in a lot of games. There are some games that he stinks it up and looks really bad. And, I don't know. They're just a tough team for me to figure out. I think, like I said, I think I've had 5 Colts games this year and got all 5 of them wrong.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Yay, congratulations, but the game was over at that point, so another one of those terrible beats. If you had 3.5, 4, even 4.5, this was a 10-point game until the final closing seconds.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Final segment of the day right here on the Early Line. And what a way to kick off your new year right here on the Early Line in the SportsGrid Network. I'm Donnie Rightside. He is Joe Ranieri. But at this time of the show, we have to give out a little bit of winners here. Now, we did have a winners and losers segment earlier in this show if you watched on NFL teams. But we want to pick winners in the betting market tonight. So, Joe Ranieri, I'm going to let you go first here tonight. What is your best bet? Could it be college basketball, the NBA, a future in the NFL, maybe some college basketball? Where are we going tonight?
Well, I kind of hinted to it before, Donnie, in one of the NBA previews, and I'm going to go again. I don't want to catch a falling knife this time of year when betting, and that is exactly what the Golden State Warriors are. They are a team in turmoil, and they can't figure it out. We used to always be able to count on them to at least score and get enough scoring to be able to even, wane through some of the leaner times of the year. It's not the case here. Styles make fights here. Orlando, the athleticism, the youth, their defense there on the perimeter is not going to help Golden State turn it around offensively. I like the outright upset of Orlando over Golden State here tonight as a 3-point dog.
There you go. I'm going to go to the NBA action as well, and that's going to be a game between here the San Antonio Spurs and the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, John Morant came back hot as all get out. First 4 games, 34, 20, 30, and 31. Took a day off against Denver, came back only 19 points and 17 points. But there is something in the NBA that we call a bye week. Yes, that's the San Antonio Spurs when they come to town. A tremendously bad defensive club at the FanDuel Sportsbook right now. The total for Ja Morant's points, 26.5. I'm looking for 30 or more tonight from Ja Morant to get back in the Memphis grindhouse with a victory tonight and also a solid offensive performance. So let's go Ja Morant. Let's win some money. Let's have some fun. And that'll do it for today's Tuesday show. He's Joe Ranieri. I'm Donnie Rightside. And yes, we brought in the new year in style right here on the SportsGrid Network with the Early Line. And you know what? We'll do it again tomorrow. Have a good day. We'll see you.